Hi Yin Yogis, this is a short video tutorial all about figure of 4 pose in Yin Yoga. So let's get started. Figure of 4 pose is a supine pose, so that's to say it can be approached lying on your back. You may need a belt and you possibly might need a blanket for this pose. So go ahead and grab them to give it a go. Okay, so coming down to our backs, figure of 4 is started with your feet on the floor, with your knees bent, and we're just softening here into the front of the groin, taking the hip flexors into a neutral position and relaxing through our lower back as much as possible. Now, the first version of the pose, the most accessible, is you'll want to take a strap around, I'm going to start with my left leg, take the right ankle over the left knee, dropping the right knee out to the side. And for some of you, even being here, you might already feel a stretch into the buttocks and the outer hip and the inner thigh of that bent knee side, which is where we're targeting. So we're working with the liver and gallbladder meridian, the liver meridian running through the inside of the leg and the groin, and the gallbladder on the outer hip and down the outside of the leg. So the wood meridian lines. So if this is enough for you, then just stay here and that's absolutely fine. If you need a tiny bit more stimulation, so remember we're always looking for that point of subtle stimulation in Yin Yoga. So we want to feel something. We're not in a restorative pose where we want to be alert and aware, but it's not a point where it's something unmanageable and unbearable. We take it to that point of interest when we can observe it with curiosity. So a little bit of stress on the tissues is good, but we don't want to be fighting anything. Okay, so next you can begin to raise that foot up off the ground and take hold of that belt. Make sure you relax the shoulders. Okay, and we can approach the pose here. Now, of course, I'm quite open in this pose, so it's quite hard for me to demo this way, but we would begin working that belt further and further towards us until, for some of you, it may be more than comfortable just to take your hand behind that thigh or even over the top of the shin and then draw that left leg even more in towards you until you find, there we go, the stimulation, particularly in the outer hip and deep into the buttocks where the hip rotator muscles are found. These 6 little muscles, the piriformis being one of them, which can be a culprit if tight in compressing the sciatic nerve in it. So it can be a player in sciatica. So the foot, you just want to see if that foot, that top foot there, if you want to draw it into maybe a little bit more of a flexion or a little bit more of a point, and again experiment with the sensations, how that changes the sensations there in the buttocks and outer hip. And you might be having some stimulation here in the inner thigh and the liver meridian too. So make sure that the lower back is releasing. We're releasing across the buttocks, the lower back. And you may even want to just see about taking that knee a little bit more to the left, a little bit more to the right. Go ahead and prop if you need to, kind of in order to not have to hold yourself. If you're going a little bit more to the left or to the right, maybe take a block underneath the outer hip, just to kind of keep you a bit more in place, like this, for example. And then another thing that's worth considering, if you're very mobile in your hip joints, you may be feeling some compression of the soft tissues in the front of your groin. So there may be some pinching there in the front of the hip joint. So in order to get around this, I like to roll up a blanket or a towel and just pop that into, that's probably too thick, pop that into the area in line with your front of your hip crease and approach the pose just with that little bit of padding there. Now actually for me this works a lot better. I find that a little bit more comfortable, or considerably more comfortable, because I'm very, very open in my hips. So, okay, and then you just work with your breath here, releasing as much as you can through the lower back, through the outer hips. And then once you finish your side, I'd recommend just knocking your knees together for a moment, taking your feet a little bit wider into constructive rest pose, and pause here for a moment, feeling the effects of that first side before repeating the other side. At the end of the pose, coming down into a rebound on your back, and just let yourself integrate that part of the practice. Now, if this isn't comfortable on your back, or as an alternative, you can also do this pose seated. So you may want to take the same shape and experiment with sort of folding forward here and see how that feels for you. So that's another option to consider. Okay, so I hope you found that useful, and thank you for watching. Have a great rest of the day. Namaste.